Hello, everyone. How are you? All right, so we're finishing up our application soon. We have two more videos to make. These next two are going to be dealing with API gateway, because what we're doing, if you remember, we're migrating from MongoDB to DynamoDB using DynamoDB Lambda and API gateway. So that basically, let's say we're on the home page and we connect to we click on available works. We're going to be executing a function that will be getting data from DynamoDB instead of MongoDB. Okay, so what's the first step? First step is we will go to API gateway. And we need to create a new API. And just a reminder, I do have the GitHub repository available for you to use if you want to follow along with the project with me. Okay, so let's create this wonderful API. Okay, so let's choose a REST API because we are going to be doing some CRUD operation stuff. And look, this is good for Lambda. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, right? So just a reminder, we're using the Lambda function that we created in video 2A. We're using this function with the API gateway that we're building today that gets all the artwork, right? This is getting all the artwork. Okay, so let's build that. All right, the API name, let's just use the name of the company, just art, and we'll create this API. Okay, so the next step is we need to create a resource, and we will call it, let's just call it art. Resource, I mean, endpoint, maybe we could call it our endpoint here. And now we need to create a method to attach basically to that art endpoint. I'm going to create the method, select a method type. Let's use get. We're going to keep the integration type as Lambda because we're working with that Lambda function. We need to choose our Lambda function. Oops. So we're going to go down here to GetAllArt. That is the function we built in, again, video 2A. All right, there we go, there we go, there we go. We can create our method now. Okay, and let's do like a first test to see how we're doing. So we're here, we have some tabs. I'm going to go all the way to the right and click on test. And click on test and see what we get. See if that is successful accessing the data with the Lambda function. Very nice. So far, so good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to deploy the API here, okay? Deploy the API, let's choose a new stage. We will call it dev. You might have a development stage or a testing stage or a production stage. We're going to use the dev stage or a created dev stage. Okay, wonderful. Now, if we scroll down, I see my URL. Now, if we continue, we're going to have big problems because there's something called cross-origin resource sharing that we need to enable, because if we don't do that, there's a security mechanism that will cause an error, that will give us an error, because basically, if I'm using my URL for my local server, let's say I'm home, right? I click on available works, which triggers that function and uses that API gateway URL, where that's different than the URL from the local host. So because those don't match, there's a security mechanism course that says, hey, we're fetching data from a different place. That's kind of scary. Let's not do that. That'll cause that error. So, so we need to enable that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back one step in our breadcrumb. And I'm going to click here on art on the resource. And I'm going to click on enable cores. This is a very common problem with when you're working in development. So click on get, click save. Okay. So there we go. And now if I want to go back to that URL and where I can find it, if we see on the side bar here, if I go to stages, because remember we created that dev stage. Here we go. And I have this invoke URL. Here we go. I'm going to copy it. All right. So now what's the next step? The next step is we need to go to our code and add it here. We need to do some refactoring so that we can use the API gateway, API endpoint. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to put response here equals fetch. Here, we're going to do a fetch request. Let's paste that. We have to add our endpoint, which was, do you remember? It's art. Right. Okay, we can do a little bit of let's do a console log to see how successful we are so far. Oh, I'm forgetting, this is an async function, so let's add our awaits. Await. Okay, and we need to return this JSON. Let's do that. All right, I'm going to clear my terminal. And I think we can see it's doing pretty well. Oh yeah, see the UI is all, we have big problems in our UI because we need to actually get that data and put it into the UI. Ooh, all right, so it's looking good. It looks like we're getting our data. Wonderful. All right, so what are we going to do? Let's create a, we can create another variable called data. Okay, and then let's return data.body, because we don't need, you saw that in the terminal, we have status. In the response, we have the status code and the body. We only need the array that comes from the body. So that's where we are there. Now, if everything's right in the world, we should see some really good news here. Let's see. Ooh, very nice. There we go. So we did it. It's a great success. Great success. All right. So this concludes the second to last video. The next video is where we're going to be clicking on details, getting an individual piece of artwork using API gateway. Okay, so please like, please subscribe, please share. If you have any constructive criticism, again, please don't make me cry. Please leave it in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.